Boom shakalaka. What's going on, everybody? Randall here from Crypto Love, and I am here with Dr. Dongyan Wang, the Chief AI Officer of DeepBrain Chain. What's going on, Dongyan?
Well, hello everybody. Doing well. Just busy working here in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta say, I saw on the news last week news about the DeepBrain Chain Blockchain Center in San Francisco. So congratulations for that. And
Thank you.
Silicon. Yeah, wonderful. So to begin with, a big question. Just because I'm out here on the East Coast and I don't get to talk with many of the intellectual AI people from Silicon Valley, what's the talk with AI turning into Terminators and taking over humanity in the world?
Well, I think first I want to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about the brain chain, which I personally deeply believe in. And again, thank you for the subscribers of your channel for seeing this video as well. Well, AI, just last week we have the Google I/O, right? And everybody saw the cool demo. I guess that's the Terminator news headline began to hit. I think, to be honest, I think AI is going to be prevailing everywhere, right, in our life. It already started from the car we're driving, from the phone we're using, from the all the cameras, in different terminals, airports, in different places, right? And you pretty soon, actually, in Silicon Valley, you can begin already see consumer electronics like rice cookers and ovens, barbecues that begin to have AI functions. So I think it's going to be everywhere, but it will take a lot of work to be there. I think a demo in any of the major conferences is one thing, but having them to be really part of our life is another thing, right? So we have to really do a lot of work to make those applications really become products that everyday person can use.
Okay. So I want to ask you to just tell everyone about yourself, but I also noted that you've been working in AI for the past 20 years or so. How have you seen the progress in that over 20 years, and then what do you see in the future?
Yeah, I think I was to a minor correction. I would say I've been working in data science and AI for 20 years. I do have a kind of educational background, all in AI. My bachelor's thesis is on speech synthesis for a weather station of my hometown, a small town in China with only 11 million people. But I worked 3 months on that thing and has been used on the weather station, I think, for a few years. That was in the 80s. And then my master was working on target recognition for a torpedo or deep undersea robot, the computer vision stuff. And then I came to the U.S. and began to work on AI for computer image processing and video processing. But to be honest, when I graduated in the late 90s, we are in the last winter of AI, right? So when I joined the industry, we kind of try to use the techniques we learned for analyzing data, extracting information. Basically, what I always saying is dig the value, dig the value like dig the gold out of sand, right? If you go to a gold mine, most of the things you saw, data is full of dirt. There's no gold bricks sitting there waiting us to pick it up, right? So when I was in all this, the first like 10 plus years in Cisco, in NetApp, is really try to apply all this. These days we call it machine learning or deep learning. Of course, that's newer after 2010. But most of this kind of modeling techniques, machine learning techniques we used back then in the after year 2000 to 2010 is really try to dig value out of data, right? But after 2010, 2012. Deep learning began to emerge, and that's really the spring is here, right? So we began to see a big emergence of all kinds of AI applications, clients, and customers. So that's where I began to feel like home. Finally, what I learned, can come back into life, not only in nature but also in name, because people talk about AI anymore, right? Before 2010, nobody's talking about AI in the valley, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it must be pretty cool to go around and say you're the chief AI officer because everybody must be like, whoa, that is cool.
Well, I think that's a better title than CTO. I think it makes it more interesting. But I think right now in the Valley, I think the other cool title will be Chief Blockchain Officer.
Ooh, yeah, that's definitely a new one too.
chief crypto officer.
Yeah. So that being said, Chief Blockchain Officer, how did you get into the blockchain?
Well, we in 2012, we did two projects. One is I'm sorry, here, my little one is interrupting. Sorry about that.
They must be like Chief AI Officer.
I don't think the 9-year-old understands what is blockchain or AI yet, but he just saw that he's doing a video conferencing. That must be exciting. Sorry about that. But I think a lot of the people in 2012, when I did two things. I started a startup company, mainly doing AI consulting and data science consulting. Another one, I started a VC fund that year. So through those next 4 years, from 2012 to 2016, before I joined Media as their global AI lead, we actually did a lot of AI projects and data science projects. We also did a few blockchain projects. So that's when we began to get into blockchain. And I began to try to understand how Bitcoin works, and then install the software, try to mine the Bitcoins. Valley is full of gigs, right? When new things come out, everybody try to figure it out. But the problem is, we should have let those machines with test the Bitcoin algorithms running for the last many years, rather than just shut them down once we figure it out. Otherwise, we would have much more Bitcoins in our hand.
Yeah, definitely. All right, great. So I've done a video previously about DeepBrain Chain, but for people who didn't see that video, why don't you tell everyone about DeepBrain Chain?
Well, I think in simple, DeepBrain Chain will try to be the Uber or AWS in AI computing. So in a way, we're trying to say, when we say Uber is, we're trying to enable the sharing of the three most critical resources for doing AI. It's computing power, mostly GPU based, the data everybody need, and also the models and the algorithms. So we basically try to say we break the barriers of anybody have to do all those three things by themselves, but we try to really bridge them together. The analogy I'm using is, right now, it's almost like imagine we're in the world of horse riding, right? Everybody's riding horses, but all of a sudden there's a new concept of driving cars. But almost every AI company, what they are trying to do is they go to buy the bodies of the car, the engines, all the motors in today's EV world, right? They buy the batteries, they try to build the car, the hardware, and then they try to write the software for the car, and then they try to drive the car, right? So for DeepBrain Chain, what we are trying to do is we will build the car for you. We will write the best car software for you, and then we can deliver the car remotely through the blockchain virtually to you. Almost imagine where VR world, and then you just focus on driving the car, which is also equivalent to building the applications, right? So we will basically try to say we will have all those computing power, the mining machines, right? We will write the software, the best. Including the best training software, we'll optimize those, we'll make them train fast and efficient, and we'll deploy them remotely in a secure virtual machine or Docker on on the kind of a mining machine who want to offer to rent to you, and then you just run the training, right? With the data and the model you can also acquire from the DeepBrain Chain ecosystem. So we just want to make the AI development much, much cheaper, 70% cheaper through the token economy, and also much, much faster, hopefully from months to weeks or even days. So that's what the DeepBrain Chain is trying to be. And the reason I'm saying we're trying to be the AWS, as everybody knows, AWS is also the de facto cloud platform from Amazon. And we saw an article actually just a few months ago. There is a projection of the AI computing market is going to be twice of today's AWS market. So that's the news we saw, and we can take a grain of salt of that, but it's a huge market. And that market, based on today, is pretty much GPU based, especially NVIDIA GPU based. That's why NVIDIA stock has been doing so well. And you can see just last week's quarter release, and Jensen Huang, their CEO, is saying, a lot of the people try to use ASIC to do deep learning or AI is actually not very optimized, not ideal, right? So NVIDIA GPU is still the most optimal computing resource for that. So if we really use DeepBrain Chain to first sell a lot of the mining machines, and we have a lot of GPUs, and we have all this computing power, and we offer to the world at 70% cheaper, right? For pay to use. So I think that will bring a very, very disruptive future for how people will do AI. And that's why we think we want to be the AWS in a totally decentralized crypto world, right? So I think that's a very, very good value proposition for people who want to do AI, who are AI companies, but also just everyday companies who just want to apply AI to their business, but not interested in doing AI or spending a lot of money buying, AI workstations or AI servers or hire a very, very expensive AI team in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, so 70% of a discount compared with other AI companies is huge. How do you plan on doing that?
So that's a very good question. So I talked to quite a few professors recently from top universities. I won't name names here, but basically I was talking to, this is our top 10 universities. The professors, I will consider them well-funded and they're famous professors. So I asked them, hey, you have 10 PhD students doing AI, right? And every one of them will be screaming for a 4 GPU workstation or an 8 GPU workstation. I mean, the reality is, we have interns from my last jobs. Reality is actually very few of them have those kind of resources. So what we are trying to do is we will buy those AI workstations, basically the same thing AI companies buy, like the $40,000 for 8 GPU machine. We designed very professionally, very efficient, the best performance to price ratio. And we install the best software, like I mentioned earlier, through remote, blockchain-based ecosystem, right? Then we give to the people who buy the mining machines because they're mining the tokens. Based on the current DBC price, we basically reserve, if you see our white paper, we reserved 5 billion tokens, DBC tokens for mining rewards. That's about 500 million tokens a year. So if we take the assumptions of we take 350 million of those rewarding for GPU, and 100 million of those rewarding for storage and the internet bandwidth, and then another 50 million rewarding for, we will have consensus nodes and all those calculations, right? Just like the US super nodes. So if you do that kind of distribution, and so 350 for GPU, if you consider we have, let's say, first round, based on the current DBC price, we have 25 GPUs total on our network. If you do the math, that's all in our, press release, right? It will be on our website soon. So you calculate about, you can get that $30,000 machine cost back in about 120 days. So 4 months through the mining, assuming the DBC price does not appreciate, right? Which we think we are very confident that the price will appreciate because we are building a real solid economy here, right? Ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And of course, at the beginning, the people mining, there may not be 2,500 GPUs total on the network, just like Bitcoin days, right? So the early miners will have actually faster return, right? So all these economics adding together will add into, I think, huge demand, from our customers. We also, have, that's like I mentioned, that's a fully function AI computing workstation. So, I mean, if you do the math and just joke, you can easily mine 4 months to get the money back and sell that machine probably for at least half the price, if not more, because GPU actually preserves their value very, very well. Right, for GPU, a good GPU a media one can be used for 5 years if you do the cooling and everything right. So it actually, if you consider all those factors, right? That's why I joke with Feng, our CEO. I said, if you allow me, I want to buy 10 of those machines because I certainly get the money back in 2.5 months, if not less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the most exciting things that I heard coming up is being able to mine and just being able to get their money back relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So I had a couple questions.
I think one more thing to add is when you think about Bitcoin mining, it's doing the POW, right? Proof of work calculation. It's totally waste of energy and computing power to do those kind of meaningless calculations. Or I shouldn't say meaningless. It's meaningful security and everything. But for ours, we want to change that to the mining means you offer your resources, you offer your AI computing power and storage to other companies and the clients on the DeepBrain chain ecosystem to use, right? So it's a contribution of resources. So that's why, when our consensus is built based on the proof of contribution. So it's the AI-based proof of contribution, which we think is a very, very cool name, right? It's called the AI POC, AI POC, right? So it's based on, how much, like a EOS is based on, or Ether is based on proof of stake, right? Mm-hmm. Or DPoS or POS. So it's basically how much money you have, then you have a bigger voice in the ecosystem. But we also include if you have resources, you contribute to computing power, right? We consider, hey, you have contribution, right? And or if you did a lot of volunteer work, community services in our network, you can also make contribution. So our contribution can be money, can be resources, can be labor, right? We think that's the most fair, consensus system considered for all the competitors we have seen, right? So based on this, we can have the ecosystem really fairly decide what's the consensus, and it's also secure because half of our consensus nodes are randomly selected from not only the rich people, right, who has the POS or DPOS, but also from people who actually provide a lot of active contribution to the network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. I had some questions. I was going to save them till the end to make sure everyone watched all the way through to get the mining stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll just ask them now because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So I was reading that potentially the first few years you'll be mining 500 million tokens per year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's huge, and that's like people were comparing it to kind of like the beginning of mining Bitcoin almost.
It is, and we also have a reduction mechanism, same as Bitcoin, where it'll be halved, in a few years. So yeah.
So getting in early is really going to be awesome. I mean,
I think the early adopter has a huge advantage here. I mean, my CEO phone called me just last Saturday night from China. He said, "Hey, I have a few, investors who want to buy, kind of 4 or 5 this kind of large supercomputer, like 128 GPUs cluster. This is a super cluster. Those cost $1 million each around, right? So they are saying because these are the same machines people use to do autonomous driving and those kind of seriously AI work, right? So the phone was asking me, "Oh, can you guys deliver that?" I said, "Of course we can deliver it. We have built this many times." But the question will be, are these investors, are they sure they want to buy 4 or 5 of these things? These are huge computing power machines, and they need to have kind of cooling and the noise reduction, all those things figured out. Of course, we will help them as well, right? But just imagine, I think that here the thing, if there is strong interest from our community and the investors and the other miners to buy a lot of our large, small, super, mining machines, then by early next year, we will have huge computing power, GPU computing power, and very solid machines we can easily offer to the AI companies in the world, which I don't think any company in the world can offer those kind of things, and other than probably AWS and Google, right? And probably in China there are a couple of BAT companies, but nobody can offer them 70% cheaper, right? So I think we have very, very good competitive advantage in that.
Yeah. Now, for someone just getting into mining, because I know a lot of people want to get into mining, but it's somewhat complicated. Is it going to be simpler with your mining setups?
Yeah, I think unfortunately, there's a very professional AI machines. So they are not like, I think right now you can see a lot of people, I think in the advertisement, you can have your modem, you can have your mobile phone, or even your rice cooker begin to do Bitcoin mining. I don't know how much that can be mined, but I kind of think that's a totally different business model. Our GPU workstations, all we call the AI miners, these are fully function AI workstations. These are the AI companies do serious AI deep learning, machine learning trainings on these machines. So they're typically 2 GPUs to start with. They are, and then they go to 4 GPU, 8 GPU, and then 16, 32, all the way to 128, right? I think if somebody want to buy a 256 one, we can build one for them, but those cost a lot. So for anything more than 4 GPUs or especially 8 GPUs, and we will recommend to have this in the hosting in the farms, mining farms, because they have professional cooling, they have noises and all those things. Because if you ever have one of those gaming PCs, even 1 GPU like Alienware, you know how noisy and how it becomes pretty hot in the room, right? So you need to have some air conditionings. Not to say you cannot have a 4 GPU machine at home. But if you really can get the cooling well done and you can bear with the noise, that's fine, right? But we will try to use this. We're talking to some of them very reputable mining farms, so they can host for us, and those the facility fee, and we'll negotiate to be kind of hopefully to be economic, right? And then I think that will offer a very, very good alternative for our users. Yeah, but
Yeah,
some of our users really want to have, some of the smaller GPU rigs at their home, and they think they can handle that. We're not against that, but we're not recommend that as well.
okay. Yeah, that's perfect. So then people can either have it at their home or they can have it at a mining farm, so then they don't have to worry about the noise and the heat and everything like that.
Exactly. A lot of our, community members, these are AI geeks, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. A lot of the community members I talk with, they know a lot about AI, and these are AI engineers in Silicon Valley or in other places. They truly believe in AI, and they said, "Well, I can handle it. I can have a 4 GPU machine. I will put it like water cooling. I will put these things around it." I said, "Well, you can do whatever you want as long as that thing is hooked up into the DBC ecosystem, right?" But it's not for everybody. So we just we want to be responsible for our community members, because we don't want to have fire or noise disturbance to people's family, right? So that's why we always want to be honest about the issues of those things. But some people they think they can take care of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure some people like myself are drooling for these miners. So how can anyone who wants to get a DBC miner?
Yeah, so we on our website, deepbrainchain.org, you can probably already see there is a coming soon page right there. So the information I think will be released soon. I'm sure in this month. Exactly which day, I think that's people are working very hard to have that released. And since there is a lot of the demand, so I think the marketing team is trying to design a fair approach for people to have a chance, especially for everybody in the community member, because they don't want to make only the people who have the most DBC, so only them can have the rights to, buy the miners. They want to make it equal to everybody, to say everybody have a chance. Just like our consensus approach, I said that, it's the AI-based proof of contribution. So I think they will make a lot of the smaller investors of DBC also have chance to, win either through kind of a lottery approach or, other approaches to have the chance to buy some of the miners as well. But also, there are some of those kind of big ones. I think people also think about either we sell them as one piece or eventually we'll sell them by shares as well. So you can buy a share of a big machine, to be efficient as well.
Okay, wonderful. Awesome. So a couple things about DeepBrain Chain that I had questions about. Hopefully you can clarify them for me and for everyone else. First is master nodes. I've heard talk potentially of master nodes. Mm-hmm. And then second of having your own blockchain or being on the Neo blockchain. So could you clear those up for me and maybe anyone else?
Sure. I think those are common questions that we got. I think maybe I'll start from the last two questions, right? So Neo has been our investor, and we actually partner with Neo when we initially go to the ICO. But when I joined the company about a month ago, I talked to our blockchain team. By the way, our blockchain team is very, very strong. Even using the Silicon Valley, I think I hold a very high standard for myself and my team. We definitely have a very, very solid blockchain team. They came mostly from the BATs, the Huawei, and all other very, very solid companies. And out of the 10 people in our team, almost 7 to 8 people are formal architects from all those companies. And they also are solid coders, so they know a lot of the blockchain stuff. So having said that, we are building a public chain. So we did a lot of innovation. Like I said, we have to name a consensus approach like AI-based proof of contribution, because we really cannot articulate anymore about what other consensus approach we're using. We're not using DPoS. We're not using POI, proof of importance. We're not using proof of other things. So we're doing a lot of implementation innovation on the blockchain. So we want to build a public chain. We want to build a AI foundation chain so we can support other AI companies. So that's the first. I think that answers your second and the third question. Neo is still a very important partner, and I'm sure we'll continue to have partnership with Neo. But the technology we're building is not really, the blockchain technology is not rely on Neo. The token we have was issued on top of Neo, so it's not ERC-20. It's based on the Neo technology. So that's could be some of the confusion coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any reason why you chose Neo over Ethereum?
I think it's because NEO was the number one in China, and DeepBrain chain was in China, right? So there was a huge interest from NEO to DeepBrain chain, from what I heard. So I think that's from both investment perspective and partnership perspective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And NEO has been very, very successful, and they have NEO now. They have the ONT has been doing very well recently, right? So, I think it has been a positive partnership. Yeah.
Okay. Definitely. All right. So you mentioned the team a couple times. Can you tell us about the team?
Yeah. So DeepBrain Chain right now has a team in Shanghai. Shanghai is our headquarters. Of course, our organization is in Singapore, like everybody else. But our core team in Shanghai, blockchain team is in there. Silicon Valley team is very, very new. So I joined 1 month ago. We are just barely started. We primary function in Silicon Valley will be basically technology R&D team and the marketing team, because the North America marketing and a lot of marketing activities and summit conferences in the Silicon Valley about blockchain. It seems like the gravity sucked the blockchain things back again into the valley. Mm-hmm. Especially things a lot of like China and other countries, they begin to ban they begin to have some restrictions about the blockchain development. So a lot of actually the Chinese or Asian blockchain companies actually moved into Silicon Valley. And a lot of investors moved into Silicon Valley as well. So it's really booming around here. So you can basically go get a blockchain conference here, probably 2 or 3 every single week if you want to go, right? So it's very hot. And the team will expanding very quickly. And based on today, we have 5 people. By the end of this week, we will have 7, and we have 2 offers out. And then yesterday, we just extended the offer to a company, a very leading company. I cannot name names because I don't want to give the candidate trouble. He's still transitioning over there. So we're hiring candidates from top-notch AI companies, and these people are coming from like this MIT and the Yale, kind of credentials, right? Mm-hmm. And years of experience in the AI industry. We want to hire the best engineers and the best leaders also to really build our AI platform on a distributed blockchain ecosystem.
Okay. And also, I mean, I think you're being a little bit humble, but you have an award-winning team as well, winning the S&P 2017, correct?
Yeah, I think you will see once we build up the Silicon Valley team, you will see more rewards, and the people coming in, they will have a lot of rewards. Like my formal team, they won the number 7 in the AI Challenger, which is one of the top competition, worldwide last year. Actually, I wasn't happy about that winning because we didn't really spend much effort on it. It just, 2 engineers spend some weekend works, just have fun. I think with DeepBrain chain, we will have very good engineers, and we will have patents. We will have papers, right? Go to the top-notch conferences, and we will also have award winnings. And that's not against of the open source nature of blockchain project, right? Because the 2 things can go together.
Mm-hmm. All right, wonderful. So AI is a very popular concept right now. I mean, definitely with projects both on and off the blockchain. Mm-hmm. So how do you plan on competing and differentiating yourself with all these other projects?
I think we are not really competing with any AI company. I think that's the beauty of DeepBrain chain, right? So we are offering a platform, the ecosystem. We try to make life and cost life easier and cost smaller for the AI companies, because to be honest, every AI company is struggling. They're struggling with 2 things. One is AI is really, really expensive because you have to hire people, and the workstation are very expensive. That's why NVIDIA is doing very well. The stock is going up so much because have you seen the news? The GPU profit margin for hardware is 75%. So buying those GPUs and use them and use hundreds of if thousands of them, they are very expensive. For small companies, they're expensive. If you run them on AWS right now today, it's also expensive. So labeling data, acquiring data, those are expensive too. So I think we can help AI companies to reduce a lot of cost on computing power, on data, and also facilitate on the model sharing. And so people develop a model, they can get paid per use rather than release their model and then people steal the model and then you don't got any profit anymore, right? So on the other side, if an AI company offer their services on DeepBrain chain, I think they can reach much more audience and users and customers. So that will help them from that perspective too. So we actually want to attract AI companies, and we already have AI companies knocking our door. Even our mainnet will be live only in Q4. Ever since I joined the company, and even just before this one, I got two phone calls because I was in AI Congress last week in Las Vegas, and we talked to some companies. Some companies are very interested in partnering with us to have their services available on the DeepBrain chain. So I think we are more like the Amazon, right? But the difference is we don't have our own stores on Amazon. We don't sell our own stuff, right? Other than the miners, which we don't try to make money, right? We're really trying to support all the stores on the ecosystem. So the better example will be if you look at Alibaba, right? Like Taobao. Taobao is only operating the platform. All the stores on Taobao is not operated by Alibaba. Alibaba does not sell anything, does not ship anything, does not own any logistics. So that's more a similar model to us. We want to make sure any applications we want to develop is really try to showcase and validate our platform and really show other AI companies, this is how you can do data analytics on DeepBrain chain. This is how you can do NLP or text mining or computer vision on DeepBrain chain. Right? We want to showcase that, and eventually we hope this become really a true DAO system, a DAO system, right? A true decentralized, autonomous organization. So the community will and the AI companies will develop the services and products for our customers to use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really great position to be in because, I mean, kind of similar to the gold rush, how the people who made the most money in the gold rush were
the shovels and the jeans.
Yeah, exactly. So AI is the gold rush of the next 20 years along with the blockchain. Right. You're selling the resources for all the AI companies to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned that example. I was using the same example. I was saying we are not only the shovel and gene company, we're actually a network of shovel and gene company. We actually pull in all the companies selling shovels and jeans and try to really make sure they get all the support and then they can sell all their products. So that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's a phenomenal position to be in.
Yeah,
definitely. So I guess how does DeepBrain chain plan on distributing the computational power throughout the network?
Yeah, I think there are two things. One is that we're selling the mining machine. So once the mining machine is bought and deployed in different locations in the world, right? Mostly probably in data centers, and some will be at people's home. So we will have a physical, decentralized hardware, around the globe. Then we try to make the software very easy to use. This is almost like a one-click Docker or kind of virtual machine software installation. So basically, you go to your mining machine, you click, one download. We will try to install the software for you, right? So in your mining machine, we'll install the environments and the most popular AI training software, for example, like TensorFlow and the Caffe and the PyTorch, those kind of things. And we'll update based on those things update, and will optimize those software and the underlying system because we are experts in this space. We know how to optimize those. So this goes back to the example I was using earlier. Let us go through the trouble to build the car hardware and build the car software. We will remotely send you the car so you can just drive the car, right? So that software connection will connect those distributed miners, the hardware, to our total ecosystem. And you can, once you are in the ecosystem, you can issue tasks. For example, I need 8 GPU or 64 GPU computing resources, and somebody else give me some data. I have some data, we can combine them together. I can grab a model from some smart student, maybe from Stanford, and boom, all those things together, begin training, and after a few days, I get my result, right? And they begin. I can give some inputs and iterate, and hopefully can get you a business application developed very, very quickly. So I think that power of leveraging and connecting, right, is all about the nature of internet and all about the cloud computing. But what it was missing is the value system. That's exactly where the blockchain comes in, right? Because it offers a token economy to value the resources provided, on the ecosystem. So I think we are a true truly cloud-based computing, right, in the next generation, because you can basically get everything in the cloud. You don't even know where it is, right? But I know I can get it securely. I know my data is in good hands, and my model is in good hands, and my training is in good hands, and I can get compensated. And meanwhile, the people who provide the data, computing power, and model get compensated too, right, by DBC tokens. So everybody wins in this ecosystem. So that's why when I came to DBC, I talked to our CEO, and our CEO, Feng, is very, very supportive on this to say we don't really have any competitors because we try to really be a connector of everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. You mentioned the token economy. Can you talk about how the tokenomics work with DeepBrain chain tokens?
Yeah.
What do people pay for with them? How they receive them?
Yeah, so I think it's truly designed as a utility token. So because through the whole ecosystem we use, for example, if I'm a data provider, so I provide some data and I earn tokens back, and you can see quite a few companies doing similar things on the blockchain, and you can see models providers that earn tokens. But I think the unique things, we are the only company in terms of computing power, right? So if I provide computing power, I can do mining, I can rent my computing power out for tokens, and I can help on consensus building, right? All those to earn tokens. So all those things together, can add the comprehensive solution for AI. Because if I'm doing AI, even I have data, I have models. If I don't have GPU computing power, I'm sure I still have to, go to find those computing power. So that's why quite a few of the AI plus blockchain company has been reaching out to us, try to partner with us, because we are the only company with computing power. And to build those computing power hardware and software, I can assure you that's not the easy thing to do. It's a very, very cutting edge AI work. That's why DeepBrain Chain, I think the company executives team is very, very bold, but then also very correct to come to Silicon Valley and build a team here, because that's where you can have the best people to build the best car for you, right? And both hardware and software, so nobody need to build them again. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's wonderful. So people will be paying for the computing resources with DeepBrain Chain. They'll be getting rewarded in DeepBrain Chain tokens for that, and then also the miners, they're going to have to pay for them with DBC tokens, right?
That's right. Yeah. And then hopefully all these people, if there are more demand, more customers, they will be demanding for tokens. So the only place those customers can get tokens is go to the open market to buy DBCs and to pay the services. And then you can imagine the DBC token price will go up. Then everybody in our ecosystem will win. And when the token price goes up, right, this is another kicker in the game, is when the token price doubled, that means I can add another double GPU computing power or storage into our network, and then the miner will still get the same return because the total number of GPU increased, but the price doubled. So I'm still getting the same returns for every miner work. So that's exactly the same as the Bitcoin mining. When the price goes up, right, there are more miners joining the ecosystem. However, the difference is in here, more miners join this ecosystem. That means we become a bigger GPU computing power. Right, and we begin to pull in more AI companies and customers who bring in data, model, and the customers. So the whole ecosystem, I think, have a chance to go viral from that perspective.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. And the more research that I do, the more I look at this, it's just like, wow, what an amazing concept, what an amazing position to be in.
Yeah,
the company.
I think if we execute it right, and if the total market, is not really kind of crash too much, right? I think we're actually building a solid system and product and ecosystem here. That's why I keep saying we are not an Aircoin, because we are building things which will be used by the AI companies and the customers with AI needs for real. And these machines are not only for mining, like Bitcoins, like ASICs. So those, if you don't mine Bitcoin anymore, those ASIC machines becomes useless. Right? These are our miners are fully functional AI workstations or AI supercomputers.
Yeah, awesome. So the one question that I forgot earlier was master nodes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot that. So master node, since we use in our consensus approach, it's called AI-based proof of contribution. So in that, actually, this is the first channel I ever talk about this name. So we will announce this pretty soon. So you have this kind of a first runner, right?
Yeah, you heard it
Usually,
here first.
yeah. So from that angle, we do have a sense of like DPOS, like essentially it's really the rich people, right? The rich people or the people select kind of the representatives, like a Congress, right? So these people will make decisions on behalf of us, just like EOS, kind of the DPOS mechanism. So we will have part of that as well. So part of our nodes, let's say 50% of our nodes will be selected through that, just like very similar like EOS. Again, there are a lot of interest in companies and groups talking with us about that, kind of master node selection. As we all know, like US master node selection has been like a wild ride. So those will be based on how many DBC tokens those groups will be owning, and they will have the consensus making. But we'll also make the other half of the nodes randomly selected from people who provide other kind of contribution, especially resources and activity and the labor. Right? So those we try to balance those as well.
Okay. Is there any indication as to how many tokens will need to be held for master nodes?
That's not decided yet. I think that's really depending on I think if I can compare with the US side, I think that's really depending, almost like a bidding war size, right? So to say who want to be the top, let's say if we want to have 20 master nodes, 21 like the US side, then it's really the top 21, right? And it's similar to our kind of AI miners. I think you have to be in the top. Like if you only sell like say 200 machines or 500 machines or 1,000 machines, it's basically the top people will win that. That's why our team, our executive team and the marketing team are trying to really make this fair to a lot of the small investors to say, hey, you can also participate, but you can also win by lottery or other means, which they are still working on, right? We try to really make sure it's not only depending on the money.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yeah, so I mean, I'm totally stoked about this project. I'm sure a lot of people watching are as well.
Yeah.
I've pretty much asked all the questions that I had here. Was there anything else that you wanted to discuss today?
I think one question, you hit all the major points. I think one question I think I normally ask, I mentioned this in some of other interviews as well. Before I joined DeepBrain Chain, since I'm an AI guy and also I have been doing VC for the last 6 years. So I asked a lot of my AI and the VC friends to say, hey, how do you guys think about DeepBrain Chain, right? So what surprised me, there are two things surprised me. One is almost everybody know DeepBrain Chain, know the project. So and clearly it has a good reputation and has a good awareness in the AI community in the Silicon Valley. And even the VCs know DeepBrain Chain, the ones that mostly I talk about. So this is the first surprise. And the second surprise is there's no single person I have talked to have said DeepBrain Chain has a very, very bad vision, or it's like an empty vision, or it's an air coin, right? There's nobody have said that. Most of them have asked the question to say, gosh, that vision is too grand, it's too big, it's sci-fi like, can it be delivered? Right? So that's a fair question because we talk about distributed AI training across nodes, across millions or billions of nodes in the network, right? Globally. So the technology, the algorithms, need a lot of R&D, right? It's not readily available. So people worry about that. Even you might talk to some very smart people like from Stanford, Berkeley, and the CMU type of people, right? And also very smart and reputable VCs. So the question is a very, very good question. I asked that question as well. So I want to explain that to your audience here because what people think, wow, this is a great concept, but can that be really delivered, right? So there are two things when I joined the company, I talked to our team, I think we already reached a consensus, right? 100% consensus, not even 51%. Yes. So we're actually doing two things. One, we are doing cutting edge research on the distributed AI training approaches, right? This is like when think about the days where we only have mainstream, we don't have PCs, right? People think, oh, PCs is not possible. You only have supercomputer. Before we have Hadoop, people saying, distributed computing on Linux cluster, that's impossible. You have to have Superdome, right? So it will happen. Distributed computing is always a trend, has always been a trend. It just need to have a breakthrough of the algorithms or other ways to make it happen, right? There are ways to make things happen. So I'm confident that it will happen. And we have a lot of ideas of incrementally make that happen. So there are things, even if we don't reach the end goal 100% distributed computing, we have a lot of thoughts of how can we make that incrementally happen, step by step. Right? On the other side, when we sell this AI miners with 4 GPU, 8 GPU, or 128 GPU, even every single one of them, every single node is a fully functional AI training machine. And from my experience, if you do a normal AI project, 8 GPU miner is probably the best for you, right? You can do most of the deep learning algorithm training for that already, unless you have huge amount of data and the very, very large neural network, which you can go to the 128 GPU. Like I said, we're going to build one in Silicon Valley, one in Shanghai, and some investors want to buy 5 of those, right? There could be more. We're just getting started. So there are readily available single node available for you, physically available. So you can avoid the bandwidth concerns of data transmitting or hyperparameters transmitting between different nodes. So people worry about that, and people with AI knowledge ask that question. So to make single node available and software efficient, we have done that many, many times, and we can make it done for sure. Right? It's just a matter of engineering resources, and it's a matter of building a Silicon Valley team. It's a matter of to get the work done and deploy them on the blockchain. And then, like I mentioned, we have a very, very solid blockchain team. So we'll be working very hard to make that happen. So I call this approach is kind of eyes on the stars to do the cutting edge research, and the other side is the single node platform or the multiple node collaboration is the feet on the ground. So we will be executing solidly to make that delivered, and then once we have thousands of the mining machines and tens of thousands of GPUs deployed, and we will have software deployed, then people will basically realize I begin to go to DeepBrain chain ecosystem. I can just magically pick up something. I can say, hey, I can give me a miner with 8 GPUs, and that software happen to have TensorFlow or Caffe or whatever other softwares. I can begin to get the data and then begin to train immediately. So that will happen, I think, if we execute it correctly. So if that happens, I think in early 2019, people realize we not only have one of the most GPU computing power, we also probably have the most easy to use turnkey software we can deploy on those things remotely, and we have a secure environment that people can trust to use data and model in our platform. I think we can talk about this vision for a long, long time, but when that happens, I think it will shock a lot of people to say, "Oh, this really can happen." Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm pretty confident that it will happen, and eventually the distributed AI training will happen too. But that one is a longer term, mid to long term, and we'll be working on that as well. So I think to balance this two approaches, I want to give people the impression at the end is, at least we cannot guarantee 100%, but we are trying our best, and from our experience and from our knowledge, we are confident this is definitely doable, and we believe it has value. We believe DeepBrain chain has the most comprehensive AI vision that connect the 3 essential challenges or required resources to doing anything AI related, which is computing power, data, and a model. So I think we're uniquely positioned in this. There's no company kind of doing exactly the same thing like us. There's a company doing data, there's a company doing only model, right? But there's no company doing all 3 things together. But without all 3 things together, as an AI person, I can tell you, if you only give me data and model, how do I handle the other things, right? How do I do the training, right? So, and another thing is, all the AI models today cannot solve a specific business problem 100%, which means you talk a lot about the general intelligence not working yet. But even for computer vision or NLP, Siri is a good example, right? Siri is great. I love Apple. But if you ask Siri specific questions about in a certain domain, for example, talking about consumer electronics, talking about anything specific about crypto, I think Siri will not be able to answer your question. It can answer the question about the weather, about time, all those things, right? Because they're generic. But if you go to any specific topic, if you talk about face recognition, a face recognition for an airport, for a terminal, is very different from recognize a face, at people's home or recognize at the office standing, right? The office standing is the easiest one because the light is the same, right? The distance of the device is the same, and the people, the size of the pixel is always very clear, right? And you have a lot of pixels, it's very good, lighting environment. So all those are very different from you go to an airport, you only have like 30 pixels per face you have to recognize, right? Or if I go to a home, I mean, I was in idea. This common issue people laugh about, because if you have an air conditioner try to recognize your face and automatically turn it on and customize for you, if you at home, the lighting is not that bright. If I have my curtain is in a yellow color curtain, light color, and my face is yellow like Asians, then you cannot recognize. The face will blend into the curtain. But if you use a standard face recognition approach to do that, you cannot recognize. What about the pillow on your sofa with a big face on it, right? Will that cause false alarm for your air conditioner or other devices? So all those questions, I'm trying to make the point. You may have a generic face recognition approach, but to use that generic approach or model for a specific business problem does not work. It requires you to customize that AI model for that data set, for that environment, for that business problem. So that's why we believe we have miners, this kind of small to large miners across the world will offer us a very, very good position to customize models to solve people's specific business problem. But that's another dimension I think most people don't understand, or those people don't pay attention to yet. Because I came from industry, I've been doing AI projects and products in real life. I can tell you doing real products is much, much more painful than doing research, because you have to make the real product work. And most of those solutions have to be customized to the real business problem, and every problem is different. Mm-hmm. So from that angle, I think DeepBrain Chain has a very, very unique angle to solve those business problems and customize for the unique business situation.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, everything I hear about it is just, it just makes me want to go and buy more, because I mean, the unique position that you have in the market, the team that you have behind you, the mining coming up, all these things are just like, wow. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for everything and for the interview.
Sure. Well, thank you. I'm sure I need to put a disclaimer there for you and your audiences. So we have to say that the investment has a risk. Yeah, this is the small fun things, but I appreciate everybody's interest in DeepBrain Chain. Of course, I hope everybody make the sound judgment in the investment. But we are trying to really pay not too much attention on the token price. To be honest, in the short term, we're trying to get things done. But we believe our company has big potential. That's why I invest myself into the company. I think that's the largest thing you can do in all in, right? You invest yourself into the company and the next few years career into it.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, great. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for you, and thank you for your audience time to watch this channel. And if there are any follow-up questions, I would love to answer. And you can see, I love to just give very simple and direct responses to the questions rather than just some bureaucratic answers and reading the scripts. So I hope we can really attract your audiences to join our community as well, Telegram or Twitter, right? Either my personal or DeepBrain Chain channels. So we hope we can partner with you and your audiences and provide more updates of the DeepBrain Chain project.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you
so much. Peace.